Let's welcome Thorsten Hoffman.
Thanks, Jeffrey. First, thanks for having me. Thanks to Fran, who organized this whole thing. It's a fantastic event. Hopefully, it'll be very successful in the future years. So I brought a few clips from Wall Street Journal, from the editor, I guess, who covers Bitcoin. I brought a clip from Bloomberg Television, a guy I interviewed. And this is the world premiere of a short segment of our documentary that I'll show at the end. So my background is media. I've been in this space for a long time, and most importantly, I license documentaries all over the world. So some of my clients are Netflix, NBC Universal, CCTV, Samsung, LG, Deutsche Telekom, Virgin Media, everywhere in the whole world. I sold documentaries. So then this Bitcoin thing came along. I'm very passionate about technology, very passionate about startups. I have a few other projects. So I'm like, oh, this is the perfect story to make a film about Bitcoin, since I already know how to bring it out to the people. So that's how my background, how I started this. So basically, I guess my talk is, we're here, there's 100 people, a couple hundred people, and someone like Jeffrey or Andreas, they travel around the world. They probably get to speak to 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Some of the top videos, maybe they have 100,000 views on YouTube, right? But how are we going to get this to 100 million people? Yeah, I mean, the scale, when will it reach mass adoption? When will we reach the mainstream? And like it or not, mass media and broadcast and television is still one of the better ways to do it. So that's really the idea behind the end of money as we know it. So the Twitter handle, maybe you've seen us around, is @theendofmoney. And we've done a successful Kickstarter campaign, but most of the film is financed by me, actually. So the problem really with Bitcoin is that it's super, super complex, right? So we heard all these talks today, and you know, I'm a geek myself, so I understand most of it. Some of it I don't understand. But how to make my mother or father, you know, understand this, or you know, someone who has never really thought about technology or money, for that matter, and that's really the challenge. And my editor, he has won 24 Emmys in America with his television documentary. So he knows how to package it into stories. So when I bring my script to him, we do chapter by chapter, he's like, well, this is too academic. This reads like a book. This reads like, you know, one of those talks, basically. You know, I have interesting stories, and I you know, try to write what I think is interesting. And he basically comes back to me and say, 90% of this, just delete it. Nobody will understand it. Nobody will care. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Stick to your focus. So I kind of learned how to streamline that message. And also, I think we need more drama. I mean, it sounds a bit silly, right? But good television needs to be good entertainment. Good entertainment always has a good and a bad, right? Some friction, some drama, some battle going on, which I hope I managed in at least one of those clips. Let me first show you that this is not a video, this is an audio. I don't have the video. This is an interview we did with the Wall Street Journal. I'm just going to play about 40 seconds of it, very typically. So this is the guy who covers Bitcoin for the financial industry, I guess.
First got into Bitcoin, started hearing about it early in the spring of 2013, you know, late winter, early spring. Wasn't interested, didn't think it was really, like I think a lot of people come to it for your first reaction is, this is a scam, this can't be real, this is not. And I actually remember being asked to write about it and just saying flat out, I'm not writing about this thing, it's stupid. And just kept hearing more about it, kept seeing it come up, the word pop up, the name pop up. Finally kind of got to the point where I said, all right, well, maybe this is something I should at least write about, at least help our readers understand it. Started writing about it, and it just snowballed from there. It was the kind of thing where the more I looked, the the more I saw there was to see, and the further down the rabbit hole I got. And then by the summer of 2013, I think I was completely hooked on it and realized that this.
All right, so basically this is the story of all of us, right? I mean, everybody first thinks it's a scam, and then eventually you go down the rabbit hole. So, but what's interesting here, this is a guy, super sophisticated journalist, super sophisticated readership, right? All these finance people who read Wall Street Journal. And yet he had to get in touch or hear about Bitcoin 10 times, 20 times before he took it seriously. So how much more harder is it for the normal folks, for my mother, for your auntie, or for your, you know, whatever. So I think we have to keep reminding us to really simplify it, dumb it down, make it more entertaining in order to reach hundreds of millions of viewers. And here's a very short clip about the interview I did with Bloomberg Television. So that's the Bloomberg headquarters in New York. Matt Miller is a legend among many of you, I guess. He's brought Bitcoin really to millions of Bloomberg viewers. And it's actually quite an interesting interview. You can see the whole thing on our YouTube channel. But I've just a very short segment here. He explains how media works and how those media knee-jerk reaction, I guess.
Small portion of what people were doing with it, and that, I mean, obviously we're in the media, we love big sensational headlines, big sensational stories, so we gravitate towards those kind of things. And you're not going to do a piece about some guy just buying his groceries with Bitcoin, or me paying for my nephew's Christmas toys with Bitcoin. It's just not as exciting as someone buying, you know, a kilogram of cocaine with Bitcoin. It's a much more fun story. So I realized that what we were doing in the media, and I tried to counteract that as much as I could. And I think, at least as far as the people here at Bloomberg, I really changed the minds of a lot of other.
All right, I mean, nothing new here, right? So, and that's why we read all these negative things here and see, and people approach us on the road, right? All about this drug money and money laundering, blah 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 blah. What's interesting here is how those memes, how those rumors, how those little bits of information actually spread. So if you look at around the time when Mt. Gox collapsed, everybody was covering it. Or maybe even at the time when the price shot up, everybody, even mainstream media had covered it, right? But you can go back to those media coverages, you always had those 2 or 3 sentences that were always the same. It always said, oh, the controversial internet currency, blah, blah, created by an anonymous and Satoshi Nakamoto. It's always the same sentence. Why? Because journalists don't have much time, they're lazy, they have no chance of understanding Bitcoin within a 30-minute deadline. So the challenge is, in a way, to get those 1 sentence, those 2 sentences spread to the whole mass media in the whole world, which I find quite interesting. And in my view, the way to do it is not to create a pro-Bitcoin film. And there's many out there, many very good ones. There's one out of Melbourne. I'm based in Melbourne as well. It's a fantastic piece of Vimeo content about the Bitcoin scene and entrepreneurs in Australia. There's The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin, fantastic film, very well made. I think it was #1 on iTunes for a little while. The problem with all these, and I love them all, and I know the filmmakers, the problem with this all is it's very one-sided, right? It's just a fanboy film. So all of us will watch it, and that's why it goes up on YouTube or on iTunes for a week. But it won't, when I talk to CCTV, they have 800 million TV viewers. I sell them films every other month. They're not going to pick a fanboy Bitcoin film. They need neutral. They need both sides of the story. So with all these disclaimers and with all this intro, let me show you the first 2 minutes of our film. So that's really the opening segment. I don't think I've ever shown this before. No, this is the first time we ever show it. And just a disclaimer. So there's a lot of watermarks on it. You'll see, from the footage databases, from different producers. It's a very grainy footage, some of it, because when we work in editing, we don't need the full HD, beautiful resolution yet. A bit of audio problems. Some of the titles aren't right. But just to get the general idea, I hope you like it. And please, I'll be around for the next couple of days. Do tell me if you like it, but more importantly, do tell me what you don't like about it. So I'm just going to play the first 2 minutes of our film.
Look closely. What do we all have in common? No matter what corner of the world you live in, you need food, water, shelter, and money. Half of every transaction involves money in exchange for goods or services. Stocks, a loaf of bread, illegal drugs. You gotta pay for it. We spend much of our lives chasing money to make a living and accomplish our dreams. But it's also an instrument of destruction. Some might say evil, driving criminals to lie, steal, and even murder. Money is so integral to our society and our global economy that its true nature remains a mystery to most. This is the story of money, perhaps the end of money as we know it. No matter how fat your bank account or how thin your wallet, it's all cold hard cash. There are some who want to kill it, get rid of it, burn your dollars, your euros, your yen, and transform every penny you have into ones and zeros, digital currency, entrust it to the web and computers spread across the planet. Magic internet money. It's called cryptocurrency, Bitcoin.
What the internet did for information, Bitcoin is doing for money.
Could it be the new gold?
No, you have to really stretch your imagination to infer what the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is.
Bitcoin could be a microeconomic miracle worker and could be a macroeconomic wrecking ball.
So what we've done here, obviously, we had one pro Bitcoin quote, we had one anti-Bitcoin quote, and one who's like kind of both sides. So when I show this to ABC in Australia or ZDF in Germany, I think, well, production quality mostly there, probably not quite yet there. Story-wise, I think it's okay. But to keep this kind of level up for 80 minutes or 70 minutes, that's going to be a major challenge, obviously. Now, earlier, Brett told us the story about innovation in the automobile industry, and I thought it was quite interesting. So what I'm going to show you now, again, this is the first time we showed, this is about a 3.5 minute chapter about innovation. So this comes somewhere in the middle of the film. So we have an intro part, we have the part where we talk about the finance industry, the banking, the crisis and the problem with our current money, I guess. Then we have that innovation chapter, those 3 or 4 minutes, and then later only we will start with Bitcoin. So So have a look at this, see how we try to have a narration, a narrative, how we try to go, good guys, bad guys, create a bit of drama. Hope we manage to get this. So 3.5 minutes.
Today's financial innovators package assets in ever more complex ways, slicing, dicing, securitizing, always using someone else's money. They sell debt, transfer risks, leverage bets. That's what now passes for innovation. History teaches that the most revolutionary and disruptive innovation nearly always comes from the fringe, not from corporate cubicles. True innovators see the world differently. They see the big picture, creating new products and entire systems that lead to new industries, 15th century, Carl Benz and others built the first cars, contraptions that could threaten the stagecoach and railroad industries. These self-propelled vehicles, or road trams, would certainly scare horses, injure people, and damage roads. Cars, the railroad barons said, were just too dangerous. And to protect us, they used their power to pass a law in 1865. It required every automobile in England to observe a 4-mile-per-hour speed limit and to be operated by a crew of 3, a driver, an engineer, and a flagman. This heroic flagman walked in front of the car to warn fellow citizens of the coming danger. The railroad tycoons, the lawmakers, the self-appointed gatekeepers used regulation to stifle innovation. But they didn't invent the flagman. He's been around for a long time. For centuries, very few could read. Books were copied by hand. The people in control, political and religious leaders, wanted to keep it that way, and they greeted Johann Gutenberg's printing press with licensing laws, publishing bans, taxes. In some parts of the world, printing was a crime, punishable by death. After all, they were just protecting us from dangerous ideas. Before the printing press, there were an estimated 30,000 books in all of Europe. 50 years later, there were 10 million. As Gutenberg's invention flourished, the Dark Ages withered. Progress couldn't be stopped. But the flagman never stops trying. His masters set a noose on each of these innovations because they threatened someone's profits, someone's control. But remember, this is a story about money. When the next great battle for control begins, it will be fought here. What if a technological innovation allowed anyone in the world to be their own bank, to create a currency free from taxes and banking fees?
Remittance companies usually will charge people 5, 10, 15, even 20% to send money. With Bitcoin, you can send $1 or $1 million worth of value anywhere in the world. You can do it for free, pay the Bitcoin network fee, which is still just a running payment. And there's nothing that the big banks or politicians can do to stop it.
But with billions, perhaps trillions of dollars at stake, who says they won't try?
At the Money 2020 conference, there was a Bitcoin panel where 4 Bitcoiners were speaking, and behind me were executives and chairmen of the board of several different credit unions. And one turned to the other and said, "These guys don't know the true meaning of evil till we fought them."
So yeah, that was, thanks. You can obviously tell it's still a bit choppy. It's still, not polished. There's still a few things wrong with it, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. I'm quite far with a few other chapters. It's very hard to talk about money creation, Federal Reserve, and all that in a entertaining way, but I'm trying. Bear with us. I think we need a couple more months, and then we might even wait a little bit until Bitcoin is a bit in the press to just kind of time it right when it's in the cultural meme, I guess, and then just time the film right. We start with film festivals first, and then with broadcasters. So happy to take a few questions if we have more time. I don't know.
You mentioned having a balanced perspective, something where there's a frame of positive about Bitcoin. So a balanced perspective, positive Bitcoin message. Obviously, there's plenty of that around here, and a negative Bitcoin message. And I've actually been seeking a lot of good arguments against Bitcoin, just to aid my own analytical process to make sure I don't get too excited about it. And I find that most of the negative, or Bitcoin's opponents, are not very well informed about it and very dismissive of it and don't provide a very convincing argument at all. So that's a kind of dangerous position to be in, where you start to say, well, there's nothing, no one's got a good argument against it. How have you found finding someone willing to go out and explain in detail and to be credible, not just by their reputation, but by the content of their argument against Bitcoin?
Yeah. A very good question. It's actually my main challenge because I have 20, 30 Bitcoin entrepreneurs on camera, and they all more or less, spread the same gospel. So I've obviously tried to reach out to many of the vocal Bitcoin critics. Most famously, Professor Bitcoin. I don't know whether you remember. He was the guy who said Bitcoin will be worth $10. He was also in the Canadian and the US Senate hearings, and he was super excited to be on camera. And then last minute he canceled through his lawyer, saying that, blah, 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 legal concerns. So I think a lot of people are interested in get a little bit of exposure on Bloomberg or something, but then it goes away. If they're in a documentary, they're in it for 5 years, right? The document is made to be valid for 5 years. And who wants to be the guy who is wrong? So that is a problem. So how I've solved it is I have a few let's say not critics, but balanced views. So I will, in my film at the end, there will be some things where Bitcoin might not work as well, or why some of the Bitcoin entrepreneurs might be over optimistic, that it won't replace the US dollar anytime soon. So that's one. And the other one is I use someone like Warren Buffett or Alan Greenspan, even though they're not well informed, I'm sure you know, at least they have authority, so I can use them in the film. But yeah, you were spot on.
Have you used crowdfunding to raise money for your films? I mean, what's your business model? Did you make money by selling to the networks? Is that right? Is that how you fund the creation of these films?
Yeah, well, funding has to come first, so I have to spend my own money first. So I'm in a lucky position to be able to pay most of the production. We did a Kickstarter, but to be honest, we did the Kickstarter not really to make money. So we only raised $10,000. We actually achieved $17,000 after Kickstarter fees and PayPal fees. That's $15,000, which is great, which afforded me maybe 2 more production shoots. But it's mostly self-funded, and we will make the money with selling it to the broadcasters later on. So even in the beginning, so if you're interested to screen that film in your local town on the theaters, I'm not interested to get a cut out of it. I'm interested to make it a big film, and then later on in the television and VOD market and DVD market, that's what I know how to make money from.
I'm just thinking about the implications of the whole balanced perspective in the context of what we deal with climate change information, where one person who may not have expertise or education is allowed this huge platform, and then they're evaluated on an even basis with a majority of people who are presenting perhaps an educated case. So I'm wondering how you deal with that, because if Alan Greenspan is saying something and he has authority, even if he's isn't correct in the things that he's saying, yet those words carry weight.
Yeah, very good point. I guess we use those controversial, very positive, very negative messages to set up a battle, right? And to create drama and make it entertainment. But the actual documentary part of it, so when we then talk about the banking system, that has to just document whatever is true. And we have everyone from top economists to everyone on camera saying how bad the financial system is and what's wrong with it. So there can't really be much argued about it. And when we talk about Bitcoin, we talk how the blockchain works and what it can do. So it's really not much argument about it. But I think at the end of the film, we just have to be realistic and say, well, Bitcoin might not, save the world, or might not get rid of all banks, or might not disrupt all governments. So that's the balanced view at the end of the show.
If I can paraphrase you at the beginning of your talk, you said that reporters copy and paste the first paragraph of all the articles about Bitcoin. Do you have a proposition for what they should write instead, or a paragraph that they can copy and paste that would maybe be better for them and us?
Do I say again, what was?
Do you have a paragraph that they should use instead of what they currently copy-paste?
Oh, well, I have many paragraphs, but the question is how to get it to that one guy at Reuters, right? And I guess making him watch my film, because it's such a big film he can't ignore, that'll be a good start. So yeah, no, it's very tough to author that one sentence that then gets read in millions of newspapers. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I think we're done. Thank you very much.
En este momento el precio de Bitcoin es muy económico. At the moment the price of Bitcoin is very cheap. Pero casi todo el mundo tiene muy poco dinero para invertir. But almost everybody has very little money to invest. Debería decir que esta idea me vino hoy especialmente cuando vi otra vez una chica ahí pidiendo dinero por la calle. Actually, I must say first, this idea today I got especially when I saw again one girl begging for money in the streets. Me gustaría ayudar, pero yo tampoco me sobra mucho el dinero. I would really like to help everybody, but I don't have either too much money. And así que me vino la siguiente idea. So I got the following idea. Es más bien un juego. It's rather a game. Lo que es muy importante, elegir un monedero de Bitcoin que solo tú misma tienes la llave privada. What is very important to choose Bitcoin wallet company which you only possess the private key. For example, blockchain.info. Por ejemplo, la empresa blockchain.info. Luego, imprimir en papel la llave privada y también guardarlo tú mismo. Then to print in paper the private key and of course save for yourself that private key. Bueno, ya estamos imprimiendo, imprime por lo menos 10. So now we are already printing, so at least print 10 directions, 10 direcciones. Luego pones algo de Bitcoin, una cantidad, lo que te da la gana en esta dirección. Then you put some Bitcoin, the amount, whatever you want, in these directions. Y la próxima vez que sales de casa ya tienes algo que dar a los que están ahí pidiendo por la calle. And the next time you go out of the house, you have already something to give for these people who are begging on the streets. Y por ejemplo, y claro, para tus amigos, amigas, and for your friends, of course, eso da motivación a la gente para aprender Bitcoin y this gives motivation for the people to learn about Bitcoin. Y la parte del juego consiste en lo siguiente, and the game part consists in the following. Explicas a la gente, mira, esta es la clave privada, que es la clave secreta. You explain to the people, look, this is the private key, which must be secret. And you have it and me, and explicas, esa persona y yo mismo la tiene. Y antes pensaba en 5 años, pero luego cambié un poco de idea de hasta 4 años. First I thought of 5 years, but then I changed my opinion to 4 years, later explain. Después lo explico por qué. Les dices, mira, tienes 4 años para poner esta cantidad de Bitcoin a otra dirección. Si no lo has quitado después de 4 años, yo lo quito. So you explain them you have 4 years to take this Bitcoin out of this direction, of this secret key direction. If you don't do it, I do it after these 4 years, so you lose this. That's this part of the game, es la parte del juego. He creado este hashtag BTC4 para hacerlo un poco popular. I created this hashtag BTC4 to make it a little popular. Antes pensaba en 5 años, pero luego cambié a 4 porque te has dado cuenta que en Los Simpson la gente tiene 4 dedos y solo Dios tiene 5 dedos. First, I thought of 5 years, but then I changed my mind to 4 years. Did you notice that in The Simpsons, people have 4 fingers and only God has 5 fingers? I'll show some pictures. Voy a enseñar algunas imágenes de Los Simpsons, de los manos y dedos de Simpsons. Some pictures of the hands and fingers of Simpsons. Pero antes quiero recordar que es muy probable que en también 4 o 5 en los próximos años el valor de Bitcoin puede subir mucho. Just want to remember before that the price of Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin can rise very much in these next years. Así que si solo pones una cantidad pequeña, más tarde puede ser de gran ayuda. Even if you just put a little small amount, later it can be big help. No solo para, bueno, es un juego. Si la persona lo quita antes de 4 años, es para esta persona. Si no, es para ti, si te recuerdas y guardas bien la llave privada. So this is the game part. If the person takes the money out, it's for that person. But if they forget it after these 4 years, you can take it out. And it can be really...
Bueno, imprimir también la llave pública y la llave privada. Y si, por ejemplo, okay, first translate. Print not just the private key, but also the public key. Así que si, por ejemplo, explicas a la gente, mira, si alguna persona quiere enviarte Bitcoin, pero tú no tienes ninguna dirección, así que puedes dar esta llave pública a la persona. Mira, muy bien, la llave pública, no la llave secreta. Das a esa persona o cualquier persona y te pueden enviar Bitcoin a esa dirección. So remember, the public key you can give to anybody, and if somebody wants to send you some Bitcoin and this person doesn't have any, so you have already this public address where they can send you Bitcoin.
¿Qué es Bitcoin? Bitcoin es la primera moneda digital descentralizada. Los Bitcoins son monedas digitales que puedes enviar a través de Internet. Comparado con otras alternativas, Bitcoin tiene numerosas ventajas. Los Bitcoins son transferidos directamente de persona a persona a través de la red sin pasar por un banco u otro intermediario. Esto significa que las comisiones son mucho menores, puedes usarlo en cualquier país, tu cuenta no puede ser congelada y no hay prerequisitos o límites arbitrarios. Miremos cómo funciona. Los bitcoins son generados en todo Internet por cualquiera con un programa gratuito llamado minero de bitcoin. Crear bitcoins requiere una cierta cantidad de trabajo para cada bloque de monedas. Esta cantidad se ajusta automáticamente por la red para que los bitcoins siempre sean creados a un ratio predecible y limitado. Tus bitcoins se guardan en tu billetera digital, que te resultará familiar si usas banca digital. Cuando transfieres bitcoins, una firma electrónica es añadida. Pasados unos minutos, la transacción es verificada por el minero y es almacenada permanente y anónimamente por la red. El software de Bitcoin es completamente abierto y cualquiera puede revisar el código. Bitcoin está cambiando las finanzas de la misma manera que la web ha cambiado el periodismo. Cuando cualquiera tiene acceso al mercado global, florecen grandes ideas. Miremos algunos ejemplos de cómo los bitcoins están usándose hoy en día. Puedes comprar videojuegos, regalos, libros, servidores y calcetines de alpaca. Existen varias casas de cambio donde puedes intercambiar tus bitcoins por dólares, euros y más. Los bitcoins son una gran forma para que pequeños negocios y autónomos reciban publicidad. No cuesta nada empezar a aceptarlos, no hay cargos o comisiones y recibirás negocio adicional de la economía bitcoin. Para tus primeros bitcoins y más información, visita weusecoins.com.
Bueno, ahora voy a enseñar algunas imágenes de los dedos de Simpsons. Now I'll show some pictures of the fingers of Simpson. The 4 fingers, los 4 dedos y 5 dedos de Dios. The 4 fingers and 5 fingers of God of Simpsons.
The 13th of March.
Right now, there are more people on the internet than there were on the planet in 1960.
We're raising money.
And it's easier to be discovered than ever before.
It takes a full team to make each one of our videos.
But the internet needs better software to help us reward one another for our work.
Advertisers value you differently. They say that 1,000 of you is only worth $6.
Any help is very much appreciated. Please fund this project. We need your help.
politically and historically, opposed to secret societies, secret oaths, and to secret procedures. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Face the facts, join our hands, make a stand. It's time to gather plans, get the shot, take the chance. Till there is no one left, stay correct to the death. They can't ever break a freedom, we will never let it. The corrupt politics is killing the system. Cynicism is it, and it's everything that you witness. They tell you what to think, make you believe that they're the realness. They feed us full of lies, and yet we always forgive them. Huh? It's all conspiracy, and if you're free to enter it, you're the puppet. The government's pulling strings from above you. It's time for the introduction to truth, and let's start a movement. We've all been brainwashed, they believe that we all are stupid. We believe in what we see and whatever our ears are hearing. But if you look close, listen, gather your own opinion, you'll understand all the lies, lines and what's between them. This word is not your oyster, this word is a fucking prison. Come on! What's happening in our nation? No one will stand up for the fear of assassination. So they strip us of everything. We stand there and just take it. Scared to make a stand, a false flag operation. Research Illuminati, find out by 9/11. You see they line their pockets, don't believe the lies they tell you. Find and seek the truth, realize we need to do whatever it is we can to protect our livelihood. It's time for us to prove whether conspiracy or not. They owe some explanations to the questions that we got. What are the skull and bones? What is lying beneath all these secretive meats? Got you lying between your teeth. What's with the Bilderberg and burning your effigies? I'm praying to Lucifer, how Satanist can you be? While all of the time praying you believing in the peace, just to keep up appearances within Christianity. Come on. Stay strong when they try to shut us down or turn around, let us storm them. We got the warnings, let us march from the morning through the night. We gon' fight and close the eye and overthrow all these damn secret societies. Why we gotta stand for the new world proprieties? The evidence is clear, we're naive to the lie.